Baylor is keeping Dave Aranda as their head football coach in 2024. Should we even be surprised? This is Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Another episode of Locked On Baylor brought to you by Game Time. What a combination. Game Time and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Cam Stewart, joined today by Locked On Big 12 host, and depending on who you ask, noted Baylor homer / noted Baylor hater,
yes,
Drake C. Troll. And Drake, we're talking about Mac Rhodes announcing on Sunday that Baylor is going to keep Dave Aranda. They're going to shake up the staff a little bit. They're going to be looking for a new offensive coordinator. They demote Matt Powledge. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. But first things first, we've been back and forth about this, both on our own separate shows and on the Drake Toll show on ESPN Central Texas, weekdays 12 to 2, about what are your percentages at? Would you even be surprised if they keep Aranda for another year? They announced yesterday that Aranda's sticking around. What was your reaction to that?
Not shocked. And I said to you that there was an 80% chance before the game that Baylor would stick with Dave Aranda, really no matter the outcome of the game. I thought the worst case scenario would be Baylor giving up a big lead or giving up a lead at all on a Hail Mary in the last play. We got pretty damn close to that.
Pretty much,
with West Virginia winning it inside of a minute on a 30-second drive from Garrett Green of all quarterbacks. And at that point, I dropped it from 80% to 70% chance that Baylor still holds on to Dave Aranda. And the reason that I cite is this athletic department has told you without telling you that it is committed to being unserious. There is a commitment to culture or person over player that trumps,
a good image. Yeah.
Right. That trumps winning. When staff meetings begin, it's not, all right, guys, how can we win today? What can we do to go out there and be the best on the field? Instead, it is, we are the world's largest private Baptist university. How can we represent that, win or lose? How can we represent that, even if it costs us fans, money? I mean, look, you can lose as much money as you want to with season tickets. Season tickets, I think, for football are somewhere in the realm of, you can buy them for $1,500. I mean, you're looking at, I think last year was $150 a game for a season ticket, or you can buy nice ones for $3,000 or $3,500, which, by the way, that's $3,500 and tuition is $54,000. So Baylor can forfeit some of the season ticket money and be bad at sports, and it's not going to matter that much. They're not going to care. And they just showed you they don't care as much as Houston. They don't care as much as Texas A&M. They don't care as much as UTEP about
winning. Should they be thinking that way, though? Because I talked about it on the reaction show yesterday of, like, this is what gets people to know what Baylor is on a national stage. The applications went up huge after they won the national championship in basketball.
Yeah.
Like, this is the front door. So should they be thinking that way?
To answer your question, if I was the athletic director, I would want to win, probably.
Yeah. Okay. I know we're big sports people. There are some people that don't really care. That are affiliated with the university.
20 years ago would have been the case. You would have said Baylor sucks at football. You're like, well, we've always kind of sucked at football. We're committed to sucking at football so we can be good at everything academically, and we can try to save our image in this way and that way. And that Baylor is not to that dramatic of an extent yet, but these are the inklings of, what if we just are Duke? That'd be fun. We're good at basketball. Football sucks. Everything else kind of falls in place and has some good years every now and then. You can look at the university social media. It is bad. The athletic social media is bad. The brand,
boring, isn't it?
The branding, the jerseys, the uniform, I mean, every small to the minute details. And I know I'm being picky, but you have to be when you have a head coach who's under 500 after 4 years, has proven to you, has told you, I'm not very good at NIL. I'm not very good at the portal. He's being honest with you about what he's bad at.
But let's try it again, Dave.
That shouldn't make you think, oh, well, at least he's being honest. No, it doesn't make him good at those things. He just told you where his deficiencies are. He's told the staff that. He's told the administration that. And the admin says, okay, well, what if you just fire the OC who you hired because you fired the other OC? Or what if you just make the defensive coordinator a DC in name only, a DCino? But because now you get to call the defensive play. What you're seeing is deposed coordinator after deposed coordinator. And at some point, you fired enough assistant coaches to know maybe it's me. Maybe it's the head coach that can't do head coach things. And you just listen to a press conference. He is telling you, I am not a head coach. He's screaming it. Yet here he is.
And it's just weirdly all comes back to the Art Briles Baylor sexual assault scandal.
I think
whatever
you're right.
you believe about it, it all comes back to that. Because we talked about that in the past.
You're going to be upset with that, but I think you're right.
It's like we've talked about this a few times on a few different platforms. Of there is a way to live person over player, like Dave talks about, but without it being such a detriment to the team, which I think is what is part of what is happening here. Like it feels like in the Baylor administrations and some Baylor fans' minds that if we value sports too much, it's going to happen again. We're going to have the sexual assault scandal or something like it again. Yep. Whereas you can look to the two major athletic scandals that Baylor's had over their history. One was when they were really good at a lot of things. The other, they sucked at everything. So right away, that throws it out the picture. But also, like Ohio State and Georgia and USC sometimes, Texas, Oklahoma. These can have major athletic programs with a lot of success and not have the scandals, right? Like I think Baylor administration at some level is thinking like that. Am I being crazy, or are they missing the fact that there can be a gray area here?
It's a tough way to put it, but all the programs you just listed have had players who've gotten arrested.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And that is not a mark of being a great program, is the amount of players that you have get arrested.
Mike Krzyzewski had guys arrested. It happens.
Hello, and welcome to college football, where there aren't a bunch of choir boys out there. A lot of these dudes are rough and tumble, hard-nosed, edgy athletes. I know that you're going to keep every institution screams that it's student athlete, not athlete student. Brother, it's athlete. That's the whole. That's what
they do. They need to go to school, but they are there as athletes.
It's a business, and if you keep recruiting the choir boys, if you keep this guy won't get arrested. Great. Like I look at a guy, and there have been so many great stories of players who are great locker room pieces that walked on senior day the other day, and you think, who the hell was that guy? And really, I think there were 4 or 5 seniors we keyed in on as guys that were legitimate contributors to Baylor over the course of the last couple of years. You can't have that. You're going to need more than that contributing out of the older classes. And it is so baffling to me that there's a sect of people that are like, but Aranda, he makes a good point. There are a lot of young players, great freshmen and sophomores.
Hey, there's a reason
there's no good upperclassmen. You're the coach. You're the one who's had 4 years here. This is you're the one that was supposed to make my excuse is there aren't a lot of good upperclassmen. That's the opposite. If you look at, there are a lot of great young guys. The opposite of that is there aren't a lot of good older guys, is what Aranda is telling you. Whose fault is that? Dave Aranda. I can't give you a free pass because you couldn't recruit.
Right. And 2 of the guys who played the most who were honored on senior day are TJ Franklin and Bryson Jackson. Those are 2 Matt Rule recruits.
Matt Jones is a Matt Rule
still in the roster. I was just thinking Matt Jones was too. Let me just ask you this one quick question before we go to break here to go back to it's okay maybe for your players to get in a little bit of trouble sometimes. Doesn't mean they're bad people.
I'm not encouraging anybody to get arrested.
No. We don't want it to come off like that. But let me give you these 2 universities and tell me if you think these are just places for ne'er-do-wells to go. University of Oklahoma. Just quick yes or no.
No.
Okay. Mississippi State.
No.
Does that have a reputation of a bunch of thugs?
I wouldn't say so, no.
No, I wouldn't think so either. OU had this guy named Baker Mayfield, won the Heisman Trophy, took them to the playoff, one of the statistical best quarterbacks ever to play college football. He got arrested.
He did.
How about Alabama?
He couldn't handle Dixon.
Mac Jones got a DUI. He also won them on the national championship. Do you think of Alabama as a place for thugs? Do you think of Mac Jones as a thug? No. Mississippi State, Dak Prescott. He got arrested too. Actually got beaten up too while he was on spring break. It's also their first number 1 ranking in the history of the school.
That's saying players need to get arrested here.
Right. But I'm saying like the almost the worst case scenario is the scandal that Baylor went through, right? But a lot more often it's things like this that happen, and you don't think of these guys as thugs. You don't think of this as a program full of thugs. Like this is what I mean by kind of person over player going a little too far. And I really hope that I don't want person over player to be ditched, but for it to just kind of have the importance that it needs to have while also putting a good product out there on the field. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm with you.
Drake, do you remember a few weeks ago now when we went to see the Bruins against the Stars?
Who won?
Bruins won.
Yeah, they
They
did.
haven't won a lot since, but they do beat the Stars quite a lot. Well, do you also remember how we got those tickets on the day of?
If I remember correctly, we were sitting at Chili's about 30
Yeah,
minutes
and
it was very, very close to game time. And thankfully, utilizing game time, we got last minute tickets, the best prices.
We got a great deal from Game Time. And that I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting at a Chili's on the day of the game and I didn't get a great deal on tickets and I got all these fees, and not the case with Game Time. We were there, Waxahachie Chili's, which was a good experience. We sat in there. We could see the view from our seats at the game. We didn't have any of the hidden fees. It was perfect. It was one of the best ticket buying experiences I've ever had. I'm going to use it again for when Oasis comes back on concert. I'm going to have to use it then, but also probably more likely through some sports games over the next few months. Game Time is the best place to find those last minute tickets, or even like the second to last minute, still got pretty good deals on there. So what you need to do is you need to go to the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That is, again, Game Time app, Locked On College, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, $20 off. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thank you to Game Time for sponsoring today's episode. So the second half of the news today, Drake, of Locked On Big 12 and the Drake Toll Show, weekdays 12 to 2 on ESPN Central Texas, featuring Cam Stewart, is that not only will David Aranda be retained, but there's going to be some
David
major
Aranda.
shakeups.
I like it. He has not earned us calling him Dave anymore. He is David Aranda until he wins again.
David Aranda. Okay? He needs to, if he wants to be Daddy Dave again, we got to start winning some football games.
Correct.
So Matt Powledge, first-year defensive coordinator, demoted. David is now calling the plays defensively. And he has fired Jeff Grimes, looking for a new offensive coordinator. There's been a lot made of Jeff Grimes on social media, mostly, which is where we gauge a lot of the fans. It's a great way to gauge a lot of the fans. But when you look at the numbers, me personally, I don't think offense has been that much of an issue. Looking at this year's 3-9 record, Drake, do you think offense was the bigger of the two problems?
I wouldn't say so. No, Cam.
Tough to
I
say
don't
so.
I don't think that continuing to fire and demote assistants is going to get you anywhere productive. That's not a good. If I'm an offensive coordinator anywhere in America and I can go to Baylor to get fired, sweet. That's not what I would want to do. Now having Larry Fedora and Ron Roberts and Matt Powledge and Jeff Grimes, what do all those guys have in common? They're either not at Baylor anymore or they're not calling plays at Baylor anymore. Can I take you back, Cam, to that 2021 season? Baylor averaged 23.1 points per game this year. And in that 2021 year, they were holding most of their opponents under a 25-point threshold. And I'll put this out.
18 points per game allowed for the whole season that year, by the way.
And I'll put this point out here with that as well. In so many, for Locked On Big 12, I get to cover teams like Oklahoma, where the offense and the defense have a disconnect. At TCU, the offense and the defense have a disconnect. Sometimes you can have a really good offense, but if your defense has a deficiency that doesn't match your offense, doesn't complement your offense, you got to fire somebody. For Baylor, the offense has not been the problem. Your genius, guru, defensive mind, Dave Aranda, has been the defense was the issue this year, ranked 20 points behind the offense in most major metrics when you take total offense or total defense. That is not good. You hired Dave Aranda to run a good defense, and he hasn't done it. And then when you had your defensive coordinator that was just a little bit too mean and Ron Roberts, you fired him. You brought in Matt Powledge, and then you said, you know what, Matt? I'm going to call the plays now. Why didn't you do that in week 6? Why didn't you do that in week?
Which is something we see in the middle of the season. That is not an uncommon thing to see that in the middle of the season.
Why didn't we do that earlier? And I just think if you're Matt Powledge, you go, what am I doing here? You look around and think, I should have just stayed at Oregon where I had it all made out for me. I was the associate defense, or I was the co-defensive coordinator. He took a chance. He comes to Baylor, and so far it has been, I'm sure, a nightmare for him and his family. Yeah. And for Jeff Grimes.
He got a raw deal, by the way. Matt Powledge, a raw deal. I mean, your head coach is literally saying, I didn't bring in enough talent in the last 2 transfer portals. And that's why we have a bunch of freshmen playing out there. And, the numbers, they're bad. Okay. We've gone from 2021, 18 points a game to then 26.8 last year when there was some talent on there to over 33 this year. So in 2021, they allowed 30 points once in a game. It was 30 points exactly, 30-28 loss to TCU. They allowed 30 points 8 times this year. Yeah. And one of them, they only allowed 29. Big whoop. 8 times. Man, he got a raw deal. And so that's another thing that I'm looking at it like Baylor at 23 points per game offensively this year. It's not great, but you could be at a 6-6 team. And if your defense is a little bit better, 23 is not the number you're sitting at if you have a good defense.
And look, you'd be too much of a homer to say that Jeff Grimes was an elite offensive coordinator at Baylor. Sure. I don't think, and I've talked to a lot of sources at BYU, he is not one of the elite play callers in America. I do know he's a great offensive mind. He has built the wide zone into something that wins, especially at an NFL level. I think that flies, and he's got a head coach mentality. You watch Baylor Plus, and you think, wow, is he the head coach? He's the only one that's yelling and actually commanding a locker room for that. And I've spoken with certain personnel that are with the team off the record who said, hey, it's not Jeff. Everybody loves Jeff. Nobody's got really an issue with that guy. It's others, Aranda being one of them. And Jeff Grimes is the same guy that coached Zach Wilson to a Heisman candidate type year. And in that season, Grimes had the number 3 offense in America, 44 points per game, and was the leader in the country in yards per play at 7.8 yards per play. You took one of the most sought-after offensive coordinators in America, who was in line to be a head coach in the Power 5 in a couple of years, and you ruined him. When he wanted to bring in players, when he wanted to recruit, there are so many restrictions with this person over player crap that, and it wasn't crap at the beginning when it was, hey, person and player. What if we could do it all?
Right. Now it's a great mentality, but
now look, hey, I like to consider myself a nice guy. I'm a good guy. Can I play football at Baylor? It seems like the answer might be yes. And the answer might shock you, no matter my skill level. And I know that there have been staff members who have like, dude, I want this player. And it's like, and Dave has said it. Mac has said it, that Dave has turned away players who could be issues where I'm sure Jeff's looking around going, I don't have any athletes in here because you won't let me recruit. You ruined one of the nation's top offensive coordinators. And for that, I much less can't forgive Aranda. I can't forgive Aranda, much less give him another year.
Yeah, I mean, so basically what we went over is, I think the term handcuff is a good one. You handcuffed both your coordinators. You brought one in with no experienced talent on the roster, and then the other one is looking to bring in talent to the roster, and you're handcuffing him with your decisions. And it's just, it stinks because, I mean, I've been a defender of Jeff Grimes the last 3 years, especially what he did from 2020 to 2021. Huge jump. And this
Jeff,
year,
go have a great offense. The defense is going to suck.
Yeah. Right. And this year, you saw Sawyer Robertson on Saturday night had a great game. And so now to the point where people are in the comments section of these videos saying, is Sawyer your starter next year? Even though Blake Shapen was their best offensive player all year.
Right.
So you got 2 good quarterbacks. That's a good sign on the offensive coordinator, by the way. And yet he's the one that's getting cut loose. And he's almost at that level, I think, Drake, of almost too good to give up at Baylor. He doesn't get a full deck the last couple of years. But I'm like, look, he's not the flashiest OC in the world because people are still used to that Art Briles kind of offense. It's probably not coming back. But he's been damn effective everywhere he's gone. And so is he too good to cut loose? Are you going to get anyone better for next year?
By the way, let's revisit the Art Briles conversation of that offense.
Do it. Let's just keep bringing him up.
if you plug in that Art Briles offense to 2021, things go vastly differently. That is not an offense that's conducive to set up a defense for success. Baylor's going to allow a lot more points per game because the offense scores so quickly. Jeff Grimes is about clock management, establishing the ground game, being meticulous.
Wearing teams out.
And that has worked for him everywhere. He's won a national championship as an O-line coach, and then comes here, and once again, when your head coach says, I don't really do the portal thing, I don't really do the NIL thing, I don't feel comfortable with that, or, hey, yeah, don't bring that kid in, he might be a problem in the locker room. How is Jeff Grimes, the elite offensive coordinator from BYU, supposed to operate? That's my question.
It's a raw deal for both those guys. Raw deal. I don't love it. What I do love, though, Drake, is FanDuel. You ever heard of this? Yeah. This FanDuel?
FanDuel.com/locked-on has great deals, by the way.
Oh, no way. You say you have heard about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, FanDuel is the best place to put your money down. I know you're a big gambler. I am too, kind of, not as big as you, but only because of FanDuel. They make it so easy for me. They make it easy for you. They lay it out. They're helping you. They don't want you to lose money. Okay, they have all these different kind of options you can bet on. You can do the spread, but you can also do player props, over-unders, basically anything you can think of. And right now is a great time for sports. I have been shut in the house this whole week because there's been just great sports on day, night, and afternoon. So if that's not the best time to go on FanDuel, maybe this will convince you. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150. If your team wins. For folks like me, that's a good amount of money. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, this is the time to do it. FanDuel.com/lockedon, like Drake said. FanDuel.com/lockedon for that $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. FanDuel, official partner of the National Football League. Rounding things out on what has to still be a shell shock day for Baylor Nation of, I think even the ones who thought, yeah, we'll give Dave an extra year, had to have been rethinking that decision after what happened against West Virginia on Saturday night. And instead, we get the news on Sunday. Yeah. Dave is sticking around, and he's going to get another crack to bring in all these new coaches. And that's a decision made by Baylor Athletics director, Matt Rhodes. And I have been a defender of Mac. I think the Dave Aranda decision to, like, the hindsight of the hire is 2020. And it was a miss. It was a miss of a hire at the end of the day. But you brought in the defensive coordinator of the national champions. He was a hot name, and he did take you to new heights as a football program. And Mac himself has overseen, really the golden age of Baylor athletics. Obviously, the Briles years were really fruitful in football. You won a couple women's basketball national championships, but under Mac, you won another women's basketball national championship. You had the best football season in history, 12 wins, conference championship, and the Sugar Bowl.
I'm going to go golden years. 2010 to 2015, by the way.
Highest ranking ever for football and after a season, and the greatest athletics accomplishment in the history of the school, 2021 men's basketball national champions. I think that's pretty darn good, Drake. That's my golden era.
He didn't hire Scott Drew, but yeah, sure.
Nope, but he helped that basketball program get to the next level.
21 national championship? What did Mac do to win the 2021 men's basketball national championship? Keep Scott Drew?
He clearly helped Scott Drew get to the next level that he wasn't getting under Ian McCaw.
How?
And clearly putting some investment in a basketball program?
Sure.
Because it was that year that they also announced they're going to build a new arena.
Yeah.
And NIL comes shortly thereafter, and basketball's been excellent at NIL. I know Scott Drew's a spearhead of that, but you have to have the support.
But if you're going to give Mac Rhodes the credit for
he's not going to coach the team,
then why didn't he help the football program in NIL and transfer portal? Because Scott did that with Mac Rhodes' help, but did Dave just not do it with Mac Rhodes' help?
No,
that's a weird thing.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. That is a fair point. He's built up the facilities in football. Clearly gave the keys to the right guy in 2021. But that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about in that overall.
I think to say it's all a bang up, that he's just been a bang up job through Mac Rhodes' entire career. With this decision now, I want to say, okay, let's some of these details we've overlooked sure. All right, let's pump the brakes a bit. If this doesn't work out, it's to Mac Rhodes.
That is actually leading me to my point. Because I was going to say, even beyond all of that, football is the thing that matters more than anything.
Yeah.
And his career is on the line with this decision.
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely on the line. I mean, if he gets this wrong, he might be at Incarnate Word.
Get ready to learn Akron, buddy.
Boston University. I don't know. But he's staking his claim. He is hitching his wagon to another year of Dave Aranda. So do you agree with me that this is absolutely his career, his reputation on the line with this one decision?
Yeah, it has to be. And what you're seeing, I'm going to give Mac a bit of a free pass here. I'm going to give Linda Livingstone, the president, Dr. Linda Livingstone, a bit of a free pass. I'm going to give Dave Aranda a bit of a free pass. They don't.
Who's not getting the free pass? Okay.
They don't call the shot. The Board of Regents calls the shots.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you, if I pulled up the list of Board of Regents right now, you'd see some not ball knowers. You'd see some folks that don't know ball and that call the shots. They are all, I'm assuming all of them have some money invested in Baylor too. And they don't give a rat's ass about your season tickets. They don't. If you don't renew next year, they'll never know and they won't care. And so that's where I'll give those guys. I mean, I'm sure there are things that Mac wants to do that he can't do because of the largest Baptist university in the world, and things that Dave wants to do.
He said it. Yeah, he said it.
That Mac won't let him do because Mac can't do it because the Board of Regents. So I'm going to give you a free pass there. Baylor's a tough place to win. Not saying it's impossible or these guys shouldn't be, held to the fire a bit, held to the flame a bit. But yeah, the Board of Regents is they're doing work here. They are in play in this.
Yeah, and I think what they had to, I'm going to bring up this name again, what they had to go through the Art Briles situation of they had to clean house, right? Because the president was at the top of this too. So they were the ones that had to clean house. They were the ones who had to send out the apology letter. I think they are very much at the forefront of hey, we got an image here. Yeah. We need to upgrade. We need to keep this image up nice so we can keep that not that they're going to lose R1 status, but keep kind of elevating themselves as a university more so than an athletics program. So all that said, I know you're not surprised that they kept Dave Aranda, but if this came down to Mac and Mac only, just your opinion, if it came down to Mac and Mac only, do you think Dave Aranda would be the head coach next year?
No, I think you've got a good point there. I'm going to say no. If Mac's the only one in the room that has to make the decision, it's likely a no. There are some ADs that don't want to admit they were wrong, and that's probably nobody wants to admit they were wrong. Mac doesn't want to come out and say, I made the wrong hire. This guy needs to be fired. But if you just left it to Mac, no public interest, no money involved, no donors, no Board of Regents or Dr. Livingstone, just Mac. He knows ball. I do believe Matt Rhodes knows ball, and I think if there wasn't that pressure, he would know that you have to pull the trigger on a 3-9 guy.
And that is a good point at the end there. Mac is a football guy.
Yeah.
Like he is
on the sidelines, in the huddle.
Yeah. I mean, he knows about, he knows more than most of us will forget about basketball and baseball and whatever. And he knows how to hire soccer and tennis coaches and whatever. But he is a football guy. And honestly, this is going off of nothing, by the way. This is just me, Cam Stewart, host of Locked On Baylor. If it was up to Mac Rhodes, I think he might have made a change last year. I don't think he thought that was acceptable. But the problem now is with this move, 3-9, you're saying we don't really have a standard here.
No,
there isn't a low bar here. This is or a floor here.
You don't have to go at least 4-8 to keep your job. You can go,
which is incredible.
By the way, we just learned Baylor could have gone 2-10 this year, and Dave Aranda wouldn't have been fired. Yeah, well,
yeah. If they lost to Long Island, you might have stayed. Might have stayed anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12. I know you're talking about this week.
Yeah.
You got a couple coaching searches to go over now with Houston.
Yeah, I will talk about this.
I guess that's the only one so far.
I'm locked into Oklahoma State and Texas this week as well, but
our pokes, the hateful eights pokes.
At some point, I'm gonna have to stop talking about Baylor. It is my mental health awareness month has been over for a while now, and I'm not doing okay.
Try doing it every day.
Check on your friends.
It's tough. We're gonna start talking some more basketball, and it's a good basketball conference. Drake, thank you so much for coming by. I appreciate it. Catch him on Locked On Big 12 every day, and also ESPN Central Texas 1660, the Baylor flagship station, every weekday 12 to 2 with the Drake Toll Show. You might hear a more handsome guy on there as well. Aaron Sexton running the mothership. We'll be back talking more Baylor football, unfortunately, over the next few days. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down there. It helps us out a lot. This is Locked On Baylor.